What's going on, everyone? Welcome back to the channel. Thanks for tuning in. So for today's video, we're going to be installing the new Torq Engineering rock sliders for the 5th gen RAV4. And make sure to hit that like and subscribe button. So let's go ahead and install it. So we pretty much just remove the sliders out of the box. So this is going to be the slider right here. I think it weighs about 50 or 60 pounds. And this is going to be all the hardware that it came with. So you always want to make sure that everything is in here. All right, so before anything else, you always want to make sure that you have all the hardwares that are included on the packaging. So obviously we're going to have 2 rock sliders, and we're going to have these M10 anchor bolts. It's going to be 10 of them, and we're also going to have 16 M10 washers, and also 16 of the M10 flange nuts, and also this 8-bolt retaining clip. So that's what we're going to be using. So I already counted all of these. All of them are good, and they also recommend to use a red Loctite for the bolts. So I grabbed one from AutoZone. So let's go ahead and start it. So first things first, we're going to remove these screw right here. It's going to be on the front, and also there's one here on the rear end of the vehicle. So we're going to start removing those screws. Then we're going to start removing pretty much all the caps or covers underneath. All right, pretty much the next step, we're going to remove all these plugs right here at the bottom of the vehicle. So we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. So you have 8 plugs here, and it looks like we might have 2 retaining clips here at the front, and also we might need to remove these here at the front. So by the way, I'm actually starting at the right hand side or passenger side of the vehicle. So yeah, let's go ahead and start removing these, then we'll move on to the next step. Okay, so I just pretty much remove all the plugs from the underneath. I just use a flathead screwdriver, so pretty much just pry it out. So it was just like a plastic plugs. There's going to be 8 of them. So I already removed all 8 of them. So we are now going to move on to, there's 2 more clips right in the front. So we're going to start removing those, then we'll move forward. So this is going to be the 2 clips right here in the front. So I'm just using this clip tool, just pretty much pull it out. Then you can easily just pull them out of its place. So now all the clips and plugs are now removed. Then I think the next one, we're going to remove the whole plastic piece underneath. So there's going to be clips right here along the side. So I think what I did, I just pretty much pull it out so I can release this panel right here. Let's see. So now pulling everything out, and just like that. So this is pretty much the whole assembly that we took out of the vehicle. That will be the molding underneath. So it is now going to look like these underneath. Cool. Move on. Okay, so pretty much the next step, we're gonna have to align the sliders to this panel right here, because we're gonna trim some parts of it. See this weld right here? So that way when we put back the panel, it's not gonna interfere with this part of the slider. So I think that's how it is. So yeah, we're gonna mark all of these where the weld is at, and then we'll move on to the next step. Okay, so our next step, we're going to be installing these 8 anchor bolts. So what you need to do is pretty much just slide in the big one first, going in, and you just gotta have to be careful. And also on the manual, it says the third anchor bolt coming from the front is the most critical one. So make sure you follow the orientation where the big part of the anchor bolt is facing. So like I said, right now we are working on the right hand side. So you pretty much wanna, here, let me remove it again real quick. So you want it to be positioned like this when on the inside. So I think the purpose behind it is so that way this part right here is hitting this wall. So whenever we tighten up the washer, it's gonna serve it. It's gonna serve as pretty much the barrier, so that way this thing here won't spin around inside. So you want to make sure that the third anchor bolt from the front is going to be positioned this way. So like I said, it's going to be the most critical one, so make sure don't make that mistake. So I will go ahead and install these, then we're going to move on to the next one. So I am now pretty much installing the third one, and then I will turn it towards the wall. So now that should be the proper position of it, and we'll move on to the next one. All right, so just the tip, guys. From the front, I think the seventh hole right here, I actually had a hard time putting this anchor bolt. So I'm gonna show you the correct angle, because I was trying to put it like, you know, the way I put the other ones, so it won't go in. So the proper or the correct way of putting the seventh anchor bolt from the front, so you want to put it in this way. Again, this is going to be the seventh hole or anchor bolt starting from the front, and then you just turn it pretty much this way here. Okay, so we pretty much already have all the anchor bolts installed, so it's going to be 8 of them. And now we're going to be installing the clips, so that way we don't accidentally push these anchor bolts inside. So our next step, we are going to be installing these anchor clips. That would actually prevent these anchor bolts to get pushed in from the inside. So what you do is just pretty much slide it, and make sure these end here will be facing towards the outside of the vehicle. So what we're going to be doing next, after we install all the bolts and clips underneath the vehicle, we're going to use a floor jack. So pretty much we're going to put this slider on top of that floor jack, and then slowly move the sliders, lining up those bolts underneath, and we're going to bolt them up. Okay, so what do we want to do next? We want to use a floor jack, and just gonna lift up the slider underneath, so that way we can try and align it to the anchor bolts. And we have to do it slowly, so that way we don't push in the anchor bolts. But I mean, we do have these clips right here to prevent it from pushing the bolts inside. That what I did also, I lined up all my washers and retaining bolts, so that way once I line it up, I can easily just put those in place. Then before we tighten everything up, make sure we use this Loctite. This is what they recommend. So let's go ahead and do it. All right, so we just pretty much tighten all the nuts. So I think we should be good to go for this side. The next step will be pretty much putting back plastic trim back, and we're gonna cut the ones that we marked on the plastic earlier. We're gonna line them up and see how it actually comes out. So almost done. All right, so I made a cut on the plastic trim. First time I cut it, it was way off, so I have to recut it. It's not that clean, but I mean, who cares? It's gonna be underneath the vehicle. but I think it's going to be a lot easier once I move to the left side of the vehicle, now that I know how to measure them properly before cutting it. So, but like I said, it's not pretty, but I think that should do it. It's also been a challenge to put this plastic panel back. So what I did is pretty much push the panel going this way, so I kind of like push it inward towards the front of the vehicle. I'm not sure if that's the right way of doing it, but that's how I made it back, or that's how I made it fit, put it back on its place. Okay, so this is the easiest way that I found out how to, put this plastic trim back. So pretty much I started from the back, kind of slide it between the doors right here, and then it's pretty much it's going outside from here, and then just kind of like try to pull this while you push it towards the front. I'm not sure if that's the best way, but that's how I do it. Alright guys, so pretty much what I found out after working on the other side, I made a mistake. I had to cut it like 3 times on the passenger side. So now on the I'm gonna show you guys how to measure it properly, at least I think the way you measure it properly. So these holes right here, you're just gonna align it with pretty much this existing hole on the plastic panel. So what I did, I marked right here with a pen. So I made it a little bit bigger, so that way it's gonna be, it will be, I don't have to readjust it again. So same thing on these. So I made a mark right there, so I'm just gonna cut it all the way down. So same thing on this one. So this is my mark right here, because you need to make a room for these. So you're gonna have to cut this piece off, so that way it won't hit this. So I'm just gonna cut it all the way down. So same thing on that. And then on this one, and again, that's the hole, pretty much line up with these, and same thing with these ones right here. Another thing that I found out is you don't really need this piece right here, so you can just cut it like flush all the way across. So I didn't cut it on the passenger side, but I think I'm gonna cut it on the driver's side. And if whenever I get a chance or free time, I'm just gonna recut the passenger side, because this is pretty much like nothing. It will be better. I think this plastic piece will sit flush underneath, but I will show you guys after I install it what I mean by that. We're gonna compare it to the ones that I did on the passenger side versus the driver's side. So like I said, we're gonna cut this piece right here. We're gonna cut these to make it flush underneath. I will show you guys what's gonna be the difference between the driver's side and the passenger side. Because on the passenger side, I didn't cut this one right here, but I think in my opinion it's gonna be more flush if we cut these. So I'm gonna use my cutter right here, and then from there on I will show you guys the difference. Alright guys, so I just gotta show you the difference between the driver's side and passenger side. So see this driver's side here, we trim the plastic piece on the panel. It actually looks pretty clean, so you don't see any excess plastic. So it looks like it's flushed. So I like it. It's better to cut the extra plastic piece on the panel, because it's actually a lot cleaner. You look at it from the bottom, but I mean, you're not really gonna see it much, but I think it's better if you cut it. So it looks like nothing is hanging compared to the passenger side, so I will show you that. Alright guys, so this is how the passenger side looks. See this excess plastic trimming here? It's actually hitting the sliders here. So it's actually a lot better if we cut it from here, so that way you don't have this excess piece at the bottom. Even though you're not gonna see it much, but hey, look, see how ugly it is. So yep, so all you gotta do is cut it right here. So that's how it compares from the driver's side if you do cut it. Alright guys, so I have a spare time today, so I took out the passenger side side panel again, and I am cutting it to make it flush, so that way this plastic piece here won't interfere with the actual slider, so that way it will sit flush underneath. So that's what we're going to be doing today. So make sure when you guys are installing yours, make sure you cut that piece. All right, and another tip that I'll probably give guys, make sure when you install your sliders, make sure it's pushed all the way in towards the pinch weld. See this gap right here? You shouldn't have that much gap, because I actually had to redo mine. I just edited this video. After I did everything the first time, I noticed the right hand side or passenger side is sticking out a little bit, and sure enough, when I went underneath the car and checked the gap between the pinch weld and also the sliders, it's actually, I do have a big gap right here. So I had to remove, not remove, but loosen up all the bolts again and pretty much push the slider all the way in, so that way I can close this gap right here. So yeah, just make sure before you tighten everything up, make sure push the slider in towards the pinch weld, so that way you don't have that much gap. And that's another thing that I would make sure you've done on both sides before you tighten all the bolts up. Alright, so that would be it guys for today's video. Thanks for watching. I hope I gave you guys some tips and tricks to install your Torq rock sliders for the 5th gen RAV4. So leave me a comment down below, or any suggestions, what could I have done differently to make it a lot easier for the install. But aside from that, thanks for watching guys. Make sure to hit that like and subscribe button. I will see you guys on the next one.